Detta webbinarium presenteras av ICF, Sweden Charter Chapter. ICF är världens största branschorganisation för professionella coacher. Vi verkar för att stärka coaching som profession och möjliggöra det för ett välmående samhälle.
Warm welcome to this ICF event where we are going to listen to embodiment, how we can use the body in our coaching. And Mark Walsh will help us. Mark Walsh from Ireland. And why do we choose to have this program here? Yes, because of what's said here. The body is a source for information for us. And maybe we do it too little. Maybe it's too much head-to-head when we coach. So Mark work with this area and can help us to deepen our understanding about how we can use the body information in, and also give us some techniques. So I say warm welcome, Mark Walsh. Please present yourself and start your presentation of your program.
Thank you very much. Good to be here. So welcome, everyone. Why don't we start with the body rather than with my theories and words? So I invite you to put your feet on the ground. If you're happy to, close your eyes. You can ignore me if you want, I don't mind. And take a couple of deep breaths just to land, to arrive. Maybe you've had a busy, stressful day coaching people or running your business. Take a couple of relaxed belly breaths. Okay, welcome. If you want to open your eyes, I've got a slideshow. I asked my Swedish student, what do all Swedish people like? And they said fika. So we put that on the first slide just to be friendly. I was doing ICF Iceland last week, so I'm having kind of a Nordic period. Yeah, it's good to be here. Just a few practicalities. Actually, I'll start with a few quotes. Just to get you thinking. Give me a wave when you read the quote. The body doesn't lie. Martha Graham Dunser. Learning is experience. Everything else is just information. Albert Einstein. So just quotes, get you thinking. There is more wisdom in your body than in your deepest philosophy. Nietzsche. Very much an embodied philosopher. There's a few others. A bit of housekeeping. So if you're willing, please turn your camera on. I do things by sort of quite interactive. There'll be lots of sort of asking you to wave. Whatever you're doing, though, is fine. If you're eating or doing your chores, I ask that people don't email or be on their phones. We'll go for about an hour. I'll keep it interactive, but if there's something you don't want to do, feel free to do it or not do it. A little note on language. So one thing I really like about teaching in Sweden is people normally have fantastic English. However, I tend to speak very fast. Please ask me to slow down if I speak too quickly. I just do that when I get excited. So we have a hand gesture for that, which is slow down. So can everyone do that now? This is also a test that you can understand what I'm saying. Do it before you hate me. Okay, that's really important.
One thing, Mark, yes. About attending to this, we give points if we attend. So if you say that you can do something else, that's wrong. We have to be present.
They have to be present. Okay, yes, got it.
And attend with full
concentration.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. I appreciate that too as a speaker. Okay. Yeah.
Yes, you know.
I'm going to make it fun though. There'll be a lot of jokes. Sometimes people get offended by me, but I'll be on best behavior as it's an ICF presentation. I just warn you, if you come to any of my private trainings, the jokes are ruder. And if you need BBC English rather than my slang English, then just say BBC in the chat if there's something you don't understand. And then I will articulate every consonant fully like the BBC, which is normally easier to understand. Okay, what are we going to do? Overview of embodiment. That's the main thing. Clear definition. You often hear this word embodiment, but it's not often clearly defined. I got a whole book chapter defining it, so it can be super clear. 6 reasons you probably should work with the body in some way, even if it's not my way. A couple of tools you can take away. I'm going to take you through some mistakes to avoid. Maybe let's have some fun. And as I said, it will be interactive. I tend to, this is the spaghetti monster. I tend to sort of put everything out like a plate of spaghetti, and then we'll sort of gradually straighten out the spaghetti so it all makes sense. When I was doing the German ICF, they're a little bit, because sometimes people kind of get worried that it's a bit chaotic and there's stories and jokes. This is very much my style. It will all make sense in the end, I promise. We're not going to do a coach training today. Obviously, come and coach with us, train with us if you're serious. We're not doing trauma therapy. We're not going to be talking about our mothers. I'm sorry. Not going to do big demonstrations today, but if you want them, I can point you to them. It's not a sales pitch, but in full transparency, at the end, I'll basically say, like, look, here's our course. My goal is to spend 95% of the time just being really useful to you guys. And then at the end, I'll just say, like, hey, here's some free stuff. Here's a course, quick pitch, but I won't push that. My PA Vish is here. She may share links in the chat if I mention certain things. Vish, please don't spam people, just kind of useful things for people, like if it's a video or something like that may be useful. Good. What do you want? Some of you have already said this, but I would love to see a few more in the chat. So one sentence in the chat. What do you want to get from this? Let's check you're in the right place. What do you want? It's also checking you out. It's nice to be able to have a look at you on camera. So I appreciate all of you on camera, and I know not everyone can be. It's nice to see you. I know I'm speaking to human beings and not black squares. What do you want? Inspiration. Okay, I'll give you some of that. Take a breath. You're just inspired. Yeah. Notice the connection between the words. New perspectives. I definitely give you mine. Hacks and tips. Yes, we'll give you some of that. Hopefully some new learning. Good. It's lovely to see learning there. Entertainment. I will try and be entertaining without offending too many people. Yes, I'll give you some examples. No problem. If you don't understand at any point, just tell me in the chat, though I will take questions like halfway through and at the end. A few tools. Yeah, we'll give you that. A couple of simple tools. Okay, now I have to be funny. Oh dear. All right. We'll give that a go. Who's worked with me before? Give me a wave. I know a couple of my students are here giving me feedback afterwards. I always try and be learning. Has anyone seen our Instagram or seen us online, anything like that? Give us a wave. Okay, mostly new. Like one or two, and yeah, great. Good to see. Good. Okay. What else? Who are you? So give me a wave if you're a coach. Give me a wave if you're a coach. I imagine it's most of you. Most of my days are spent training coaches. This is sort of home ground for me. Who's training to be a coach? Do we have any HR managers, pirates, assassins, drug dealers, anything else? Put it in the chat. It seems like mostly it's coaches. I've trained all sorts of people over the years, but I like working with coaches. They kind of get it already. All right. This is my life. So Irish family, but I'm actually English. Grew up in countryside. Discovered martial arts, did a lot of work with kids outdoors, then went to work in war zones, doing embodied work there, which was interesting to say the least. In 2006, I bought a suit and started teaching in corporations. So I've been doing this a while. Some of you may know the Embodiment Conference was 4 years ago, but 500,000 people came to that. Been running a podcast. Mostly what I do, though, is train coaches. I do a little bit of trauma work in Ukraine and supporting Ukrainians on the side. She did a bit of that this morning. Actually, it's quite emotional stuff. But mostly I'm training coaches. That's what I do. I've trained more embodiment coaches, I think, than anyone else in the world. I wrote the book on it. And this is what I do. I love this stuff. So I don't know everything about coaching. I don't know about all coaching styles, but you can definitely learn something about working with the body, this part of coaching from me. All right. I also work with all kinds of companies, corporations, including a Swedish one. All over the world. The cross-cultural stuff's really interesting to me. There's a cultural embodiment. I will be making some jokes about that. It's not prejudice. If I use stereotypes, it's just because they point to something. I have an Italian girlfriend. She is not German. She has an Italian way of doing things. It's very obvious to her and to me. It doesn't mean that everyone is the same, but culture is part of embodiment. Okay. Maximize your learning. So sometimes when I've done corporate work, and maybe some of you can resonate with this, I turn up and there's people who have been sent by HR and they're there with their arms crossed and they're like, teach me. So they're not really in learning mode. Mode in this sense is embodiment, right? I'll define it more rigorously soon. If you weren't here to learn, how would you be sitting? Show me that. be my nightmare audience. I've turned up. You're the worst possible audience for learning. Maybe distracted, maybe absent. Maybe sometimes you get this thing of like, actually, I'm a coach and I know a lot. There's a kind of arrogance, right? Because we're all, most of us here are teachers of some kind as well as coaches. Shake that off. Get rid of that. I don't want to have a bad evening. And if you're a little bit more open, a little bit more available, a little bit more curious, whatever is useful for your learning, how would you be in your body right now? Right now, don't just think about it, do it. You've all been open, curious, available for learning. Yeah, you see, that's much easier for me. I'm like, oh, thank God they seem okay. Yeah, it's always a bit stressful, these things. So yeah, that's nice. Thank you so much for me, but also for you, right? For your learning. I want you to maximize your learning. And if you're a closed book, if you know everything already, you just won't learn anything. Yeah. So it's an important one. Be a learner, not a knower. That's also our first introduction to the body. There will be more. What is the body matter? So I Googled life coaching, and every single picture, people are sitting down. I thought that's interesting because I do my coaching standing up and lying down and in all sorts of positions, leaning on people. Why does the body matter to coaching? You tell me in the chat. Why am I here? Why might you be interested in this? Why can't we do it all in our heads? What do you think? What I find is most coaches know the body matters, but they're missing some specifics about how to work with it, or they're missing some confidence, right? Body language, yeah, we'll sort of define embodiment as differently from that, but that's part of it. Emotions, right? Emotions are bodily. Okay. It's honest. There's an honest signaling from body language, right? First impression, deep impression, trust, absolutely. Emotions and thoughts. Thoughts influence body. Body influences emotion and thoughts. Those three things are always influencing each other, right? That's the Mahebrin figure on 70%. Certainly, I'd say it's difficult to put percent on it, but it's certainly important. I'll give you an example of that. Look this way. Everybody touch their knees. Go. Touch your knees. Touch your knees. Touch your knees. Okay, who touched their elbows? Okay, you all speak really good English because you're Swedish, right? All Swedish people speak great English, but most of you touched your elbows, even though I said knees. Why? Because you did not listen to my words. You listened to my body. Okay, anyone got kids? If you've got kids, you'll find this to be true. They do what you do, not what you say. This is basic. It's very primal. So even people, by the way, even English people make that mistake. It doesn't matter that it's a second language. I've done that all over the world. 90% of people make that mistake. Yeah. Okay, so what is it matter? Here's 6 reasons. 6 reasons. We're not just like school is all just sitting down, right? So we've got this misunderstanding that it's all just brains, and that just makes people go to sleep. That's why I do all these little exercises and keep it interactive. It's part of who we are. So if we're coaching with the whole person, we should include that. Also, the body is accessible. What do I mean by that? If I say to you, Lars, change your mind. Yeah, or Anne, change your soul, even worse, or your spirit. You're left with the question of how, right? But if I say change your breathing to change your mind, we can do that. So it's accessible. If we were to take a kind of Indian model, a tantric model, it's the most manifest part of your being. What does that mean? It means you can kiss it, you can hug it, you can move with it. It's physical, you can do something with it. So it's very practical as opposed to minds and souls and other things, which, are interesting, but are more abstract. Biggest reason most of the coaches I train work with the body is it works. That's simple. It works. Why does it work? Because it's often the bit that people are missing. It's often the bit that people are clever. Like most of my coaches, frankly, are rich. And if they're rich, it's probably because they're clever. Yeah, unless they just got lucky. So honestly, like this is the part they're missing. If they could work it out from a book, they would have done already. They wouldn't be in coaching. Like my coaches don't lack intelligence. I don't know about yours. It's also the thing that sticks. You read a book, nothing changes. We call this shelf help. Yeah, shelf help. So if you want something to stick, the body has to be involved because otherwise the body will undermine it. If you've done this, anyone tried to have a diet, gone on a diet and thought, I'm definitely not going to do that. Your mind's worked it all out. I'm going to have, 2,000 calories a day. And it doesn't work for most people. Yeah. Why? Because the body undermines it. Same with many, many areas of life. Does this make sense? Nod if you're understanding me and this makes sense. Can you nod? Making sense? Thumbs up. Yeah. Okay. All right. Good. Sometimes Swedish people are less responsive than some countries. Very stable, very steady, but I'm not always sure if everything's going well. In Italy, people are much more expressive in their bodies. But obviously, there's individual differences. Good. So what else? We did that one. Here's another one. If you say to someone, calm down, will they calm down? If you just say to someone, let's say two guys are arguing in a bar and you say, gentlemen, please be calm, right? Like, that doesn't work that well. It's because our nervous systems are in our fight or flight response, humans, dogs, the same stuff. It's biological. This will undermine whatever you're doing. If you have coaches who are stressed, they will not have very good ideas. Yeah. Okay. Tell me about if you think this is true. Part of a coach's job is to help a coach have new ideas to their problems, right? New solutions. Yeah, but if they're in the same embodiment, they're going to have the same old ideas, right? Actually, let me see if you guys are like most countries I work in. Where do you have your best ideas? I want you to think about this. I'm going to test my psychic skills if I can read your minds. Where do you have your best ideas? So stick it in the chat and I'll show you my slide. Got a slide on this. I was going to show you it later, but I'll show you it now. So put it in the chat. Where do you have your best ideas? I'm not going to look at the chat. This is the slide. Often people say in nature. Some people say in the bath or in the shower. Some people say on the toilet. What do these things have in common? It's that you're relaxed and you're in your body. So do you want your coaching clients to have good ideas, right? You want them relaxed in their bodies. I did a French group the other day and they said in bed, but I think that's just a French thing. So let's see what you guys have said. I don't know why the French said that. Maybe they have a lot of time. When you're running, right? Okay, you're moving. When I go for a walk, there you go. On the toilet, in movement, outside. Yeah, in the forest. Okay, we call that eco-regulation. Walking, in bed. Yeah, you're French. When I'm out running. In the garden. Do you see what these things have in common? You're moving your body. You're relaxed. Often you're eco-regulated as well. So why would you then do all your coaching inside, not moving? Doesn't make sense, does it? If we want coaches to have good ideas. Yeah. All right. Back to the presentation. I tend to jump around a bit. I'm a bit ADHD. So the main thing I'm saying is we're not a head on a stick or we're not a brain taxi. The body is much more than that. If information were enough, Wikipedia would have solved the world's problems, and it hasn't. Let me give another example. If somebody said to you, I am a fantastic lover. I've written a lot of good books on kissing. I've read all sorts of websites on kissing. I'm an amazing kisser. What would you say? Or I'm a really good driver. I've read lots of good books on driving. You would say that's nonsense, right? Because you understand that that's an embodied knowing. It's not a theoretical knowing. It's like learning about France is theoretical. Learning to speak French is more experiential. And the French way of being, like this is a Japanese Aikido instructor who lived for 50 years in France. He developed the French way of being. Yeah, that takes immersion or practice. So embodiment is about skills. It's about being. Philosophically, it's an ontological approach, a being-based approach. Yeah. And another thing I'd say is we always have a body. So like right now, you're listening to this presentation through your embodiment. Yeah. So some of you are very open, some of you are very closed, some of you are skeptical, some of you are curious, some of you are engaging in the sort of playful embodiment I'm offering you. Some of you are suspicious. That could be a trauma pattern, it could be a cultural pattern. All these things are going on. Your personality, your culture, whether you had lunch today, all these things are happening. Yeah. So what is the lens you're seeing me through? It's kind of like my glasses. It's only when I take them off do I realize. So I have quite strong glasses because I have eye problems. And when I'm just looking through them, everything's normal, right? Does it make sense? So this is what our coaches are doing the whole time. Yeah, like you've brought a certain mood, a certain disposition to this situation. We're going to look at that in a few different ways. So what are you doing now, right? It may have been useful for something in the past. Let's say the good girl and the girl who's more kind of, rebellious and defiant, neither's better or worse, but they were useful in the past. Our embodiment comes from our culture, our upbringing, our traumas, all sorts of things. The question is it useful now? Let's do a bit of group coaching. Think of a challenge you have in your life. You don't have to tell me it. I'm not going to ask. Nothing traumatic, but something that's a real challenge in your life. Put your hand up when you've got something. Real challenge. Everyone got at least one problem in their life, or is life perfect in Stockholm? It's nice, Stockholm. I was there in the summer. It's lovely, actually. Very green. Yeah. Okay. Everyone got at least one problem? All right, good. What's the embodiment you're bringing to that? Your way of being? Is it like, I've got to do the thing? Or is it like, oh God, I've got to do the thing? Or is it, oh my, I'm so lucky I get to do the thing? So exaggerate it. Exaggerate what you're doing. This is a technique I use with coaches all the time. Make it bigger, especially because most of you are Swedish and I can't see what you're doing. Great. Now do the opposite of that. What's the opposite of whatever you're doing? Just do the opposite. Don't overthink it. Just do anything different. Anything at all different. Okay, which is more useful? It may be the first. It may have been brilliant. You might have been, you know what's really going to help my relationship? If I bring a mood of resentment and discontent and punishment and judgment. That's really helpful. Or that might have just been a bad habit. Right? Embodiment's a habit. So is the mood you were bringing to that question useful or not? Maybe it's historical. Maybe it's a habit. It might have been really useful. If I was coaching you one-on-one, we could go into whether it was or not, right? Is this making sense? Yeah. I'm going to make this experiential so you get a bit of a sense of it. Definitions of embodiment. The subjective study of the body. The body is I, not it. Like take your arm. Put your arm in front of you. Everyone got at least one arm. Use a leg if not. This arm you can see as an object, right? As a thing. But this arm is not a thing like, I don't know, my microphone. This arm is part of you. This arm is, maybe it's held babies and lovers and had fights and written poems. This arm has been with you your whole life. This is part of who you are. Maybe the arm is energized. Maybe it's stiff. Maybe it's playful. This is part of your being, right? Is that resonating? So this arm isn't a thing. It's not like a cup. It's not dead. It's not inert. It's feeling. It's moving. It's part of your being. It's more parts of your being, but it's part of your being. So it's an aspect of who you are. The simplest definition of embodiment is how we are. The manner of our relational being. It's the same thing in English. It's just a more upper class way of saying it. Yeah. How is the manner with which we are. It's always relational. Like right now I'm teaching, I'm in a certain mode. I'm in a certain way. If I was with my niece or my mum, it'd be different. Right. This is me with a jacket, being professional and doing a presentation. Yeah. It's relational. I'm Anglo-Irish. That means something. My Irishness is fighty. My Englishness is a bit more uptight. Hello, I'm English. There's this kind of embodiment. Yeah. Irish is a bit more like this, Irish is a bit more relaxed. It's a bit more like this way. You know what I mean? It's much more kind of like friendly. Yeah. English is like a little bit more formal. Does that make sense? It's a little bit more narrow, a little bit more precise. It's very different. Yeah. And of course, we could say, well, what part of England and, what class and what race? And we could make it more complicated. Yeah. Good. Hopefully something is landing here. Can you nod loudly if this is landing, resonating? I know that you're there. Good. All right. So where was I? Definitions. It's a field of study and a type of intelligence. So field of study, it includes many different things. Western, Eastern, different things. Yoga, for example, could be an embodiment practice, or it could just be an exercise practice, right? Is it just physical, or is it, involving awareness and developing the body? My book breaks this all down. You can go into lots of detail. There's lots and lots of embodied practices, but I'm just really interested in, I do this for fun, but I'm interested in coaching. So we have this model. So this is embodied competencies. We have HR managers like this, 8 different types of intelligence, 8 different aspects of embodied intelligence. For example, some people are really good at self-regulation, but not so good at influencing others. Or they're really good at self-awareness, but notice there's 2 layers of this as well, right? This state and trait, or state and pattern. Mindfulness is about awareness of state, not pattern. You can't be mindful of your personality. You can only be mindful of sensation in the present moment. So it includes mindfulness embodiment, but more than that. Yeah. Actually, the personality part's invisible. Everybody else can feel it, but you can't. It's like the taste of your own mouth or your smell of your own house. It's just you've habituated to it. It would take me a while to go through each of these. I have a whole book chapter on each of these, but this is the sort of, we break it down very concretely with coaches and teach them these skills. It's not about being athletic. It's not about being sort of physically beautiful in the traditional sense. It's a little bit more than body language. It's a bit deeper and a bit more, it's not like some gestures the politicians learn, a bit deeper than that. As I said, it's not just mindfulness, though it includes mindfulness. Body awareness in the present moment is part of embodiment, but it's not all of it. And as I said, this is like your old shoes, everyone else can feel it, but it's like you've gotten used to it. Yeah, so there's ways we help coaches become more aware of this. Here's one. Just as a demo. Cross your arms. Everyone cross their arms. Some of you have your arms crossed already. Everyone got their arms crossed? First of all, we just saw your level of obedience, right? Some of you are like, yes, sir. Some of you are like, no, I'll do what I want. Screw you. Yeah, so that's the first thing we just seen. Second thing, now try them, cross them the other way. Whoa. Feels weird, right? You can do this with fingers as well. Cross them the other way. You want to try that? Yeah. The other index finger on top. Yeah. So one way it feels normal because it's just comfortable. So your embodiment's like that. It's very, very comfortable. And one way is different. And you only know which way is normal when you do the other one. Does that make sense? So our embodiment is something we're just used to that we're not so aware of quite often. Yeah. All right. I'll take questions in a minute, but we're almost there for the first questions. I always say people already know this, that, there's a reason we dance with people when we're in courtship or romance, so we can get to know them at a deep level. Children know about embodied connection and dogs know about it, right? If I speak to a dog, it's not like, if I went to Stockholm and spoke to a dog, it's not like the dog knows English, but the dog understands, we might say, our energy. Yeah, our embodiment. So dogs quite like me usually because I'm friendly but quite dominant, and dogs like that combination. Yeah, if you're anxious or you're less dominant, they respond very differently. So it's really about the relationship with your body. This is the key thing. You're having a relationship with yourself. It's not just the body as an object. Some people say, yeah, this is like 90% of stuff, but it's a good portion of what we need to be working with. Let's say that. I'm going quite quick now. There's a lot of information. As I said, you can always look this up later, but there's always these contexts of embodiment as well. So we're embodied, but there's always been an environment and culture and all these different things. And we have a shared biology, like Swedish people, English people, Japanese people, they all have a fight-flight response, for example. Yeah. Intergenerational layer, like Sweden has less trauma than a lot of European countries because of its history. There's still plenty there, but a lot less. And that leads to different embodiments. If you go to Eastern Europe, under communism or a place that was occupied by the Nazis, you'll see a very different embodiment. So, the whole historical concept is embodied. This is actually very beautiful. When you look at a human being, you want to go to gallery view, you can see some human beings, not just me. You're actually looking at their history. You're looking at everyone they've ever loved and lost. You're looking at their way of being, their strategy for living. And maybe your strategy is be clever. Anyone got that one? Come on. I'm professionally clever. Anyone got clever as their strategy for living? Vanessa? Anyone else? No clever people? Anyone funny? Is that your strategy? Who's likable? Who's like a bit of a people pleaser? That's your strategy. Yeah. Who's more like tough, work hard, be strong? Is that your strategy? Strong work ethic. You're not sure? Who's not sure what their way of being might be? Just ask around, people will give you feedback real quick. You'll get the feedback. And if I go to a new group, I can see who's nice because they're sitting there and they're like this, like, oh, hi, it's really nice to be in the presentation, and I can see who's like tough and working and sending emails on the side, right? It's a different embodiment. It's pretty obvious. It's not subtle. Dogs can feel it. Kids can feel it. All right. I want to pause for questions. What questions do you have? It's a bit of a theory download. I wanted to give you the theory before we get to techniques.
Yes, you're talking about different personalities and different driving forces. And this you mentioned for just a minute ago. How do you work, for example, with these different driving forces in people?
In terms of how do I work, I'll show you the technique shortly.
Okay.
The first thing is become aware of them, and I don't treat all coaches the same. So if someone comes to my office and they knock on the door like that and say, right, I'm here for the coaching, it's going to be like, right, okay, let's get on with it. Results orientated. What do you need? Somebody else comes in and they're very playful. You know, I'm going to adapt my style as a coach. So that's the key thing, is I observe the embodiment and I adapt in a way which will be helpful. That's the short answer to that. But different techniques I'll come into. Can I ask for questions in the chat? Actually, it's just, I find it's just more efficient if some people are a bit shy to speak sometimes as well. So any other theory sort of questions before we start to go into techniques? Does the basic theory make sense? Thumbs up if you're following me. It's kind of like, yeah, logical. It's kind of not crazy, right? It's pretty reasonable. I get the sense generally sort of coaches have a sense of this already, but I've just specialized, right? So I've clarified something that they would intuitively understand if they had, you know, much experience. How do you adopt neurodiversity? Well, I'm pretty ADHD myself, so that one's very easy for me. In terms of like autism spectrum and stuff, yeah, there's this particular embodiment with that you know, my cousin's very autistic and he doesn't like a lot of deep eye contact or touch or things like that. I'm much more literal with my language with him, for example. It really depends. So yeah, people have these labels these days, right? Everyone has all these different labels. And for me, sometimes they're helpful. Like, you know, ADHD is a thing worth knowing about. But often it's more about the adaptation to the individual and what they specifically need. Yeah, good question. Thank you, Thomas. Appreciated. Neurospicy. Yeah. Yeah, these boring non-ADHD neurotypicals. Yeah. So yeah. Good. Should we continue? Notice if you've shifted embodiment from the beginning, I may have sort of infected you with a bit of enthusiasm. You know, or maybe you're curious and you've opened up, or maybe you've got very skeptical and you're leaning back. So I want to keep relating it to you. Yeah. Make it personal. Okay, why coach of the body? Said this already. There's a few reasons. We've gone into, this is what we use it for. So as a coach, it's really important to know my own state. Okay, so just before this call, I'm actually dieting at the moment. And just before this call, I realized I was a little bit low blood sugar. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to have a little snack before I teach because I don't want to be kind of spacey for these guys. I could feel like a kind of spaciness. Yeah. So it's like, okay, let's just eat something. So simple example, knowing when you're in a bad mood, knowing if you're too tired, whatever it is. Also, I need to change my own state. So you can't always, you know, have a banana. Sometimes we do a breathing exercise or a grounding exercise. So as a coach, do you know how to wake yourself up? If I said, right, you're coaching the president of Sweden in 1 minute, but you're really tired, how are you going to wake yourself up? You've got 1 minute. Do you know a way? I mean, assuming you're not snorting cocaine, right? There's like, you need to use your body. Yeah. What about if you had to relax yourself? You had a really stressful client, really difficult session, and you got another client. So we need to manage our state. You need to be aware of the client. Like, can you feel if they're stressed? Yeah. Can you read something about them? That's really important to read bodies. We need to change the client state, helping the client generate insight. This is a big one we use. Yeah. I'll give you an example of this, just a experiential one. Give yourself a hug if you're willing to. Give yourself a hug. Okay. So any way that's comfortable for you, but wrapping around the body, touching the body if you can. Relax the spine, let the head go, let the neck go, and close your eyes if you're comfortable too. One hand on the body rather than both hands on the shoulders. Now, from this place, if we were doing coaching around self-care, it would be very different than if I just asked you before. So if I said to you, how could you take better care of yourself? While in this pose, see if it's more insightful. Make sure you hold yourself tenderly. It's important it's embodied and not just acted. Or if I said, how are you not taking care of yourself in this position? What might be more apparent? Yeah. All right. Gently come out of that. That was 1 minute. Who has shifted their state? I feel like the whole room feels much more kind of tender. Yeah. So that was 1 minute, guys. 1 minute. I almost feel like whispering because it's kind of, I want to be delicate with you. I want to be tender to your tenderness. I can see that in your eyes. Yeah. And in terms of insight, who found themselves quickly having some insight in our 1 minute? Like you had some insight about your relationship to self-care. It's very typical, right? If I was doing what's your life purpose, we might do this instead. Yeah, or what are you passionate about? We might do this. It's very different. It's going to create a different embodiment. I'll take that question later on if you don't mind. So hold that question. I promise I'll come back to you just because I'm kind of flowing now. Yeah. Good. Okay. So that's a little one you can take away. We call that self-care pose. Give you something practical. The most important coaching tool you have, though, is actually yourself. Yeah. This is why we do coaching, because people want to have something different. So they need to do something different. So they need to be something different. That's basic model. Other people use that, but the being is the embodiment. Basic tool you have is you, though. As a coach, let me ask you this. Are you coffee or chamomile tea? So chamomile tea, it's relaxing. You drink chamomile tea in Sweden? Okay. Coffee, Red Bull. Who's human Red Bull here? Who's like a sort of wake up kind of coach? My student Vanessa. So you're like, right, let's do it. You know, Tony Robbins, you can do it. Enthusiasm, you know, and who's more like human chamomile tea? Who's more like, it's lovely to see you in the coaching again. This is my very relaxing voice. It's a bit like being on British Airways, isn't it? It's lovely. It's very relaxing. Welcome to British Airways coaching. You're in safe hands. Everyone can be calm. Yeah. And who's human LSD? There's a third option. Some people are like, wow, there was a coach. They're like, right, we're going to do crazy stuff. You're going to have the craziest idea. Yeah. It's a very different influence on your coachee. Does that make sense? So we use, for example, a 4 elements model, with my coachees. Some are more fiery, some are more watery, different models for this. Yeah. You need to know that as a coach. Like I tend to be quite fast as a coach. That doesn't suit everyone. Sometimes they have to slow down when I'm working in Sweden. Yeah. It's not that quickness doesn't always land well in certain places. Okay. So let's keep it simple. Some basic tools. How about warm water? Yeah, that depends on who you're coaching. Brilliant. So you have range, right? You have range. That's part of embodiment. If you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Oh, look at my handy slide with a hammer on. Yeah. So multi-tools, multi-embodiments, being tender, being challenging, being playful, all these things. That's what I'd say. Just versatility as a coach is really important. You don't build that up by reading books, right? So if you wanted to become more playful, you could go to improv comedy. If you wanted to become more like sensual, you could go, I don't know, salsa dancing. If you wanted to become more passionate, what could you do? If you wanted to become fiercer, you could do karate or kendo. Yeah, it's something that builds a different way of being. You're not going to think your way into it. That's not how embodiment works. Yeah, books are fine, but they don't help. What helps is practice, maybe immersion, community, but pretty much practice. That's the big thing we talk about as embodiment coaches. Simple things, learning to recognize fight or flight. Yeah, if your coach is in fight or flight or freeze, I know there's others, fawn, blah, blah, blah. They're just not going to be very smart. They're not going to be very kind to themselves, and they're not going to be very creative. So having I can feel it. Like when I'm working in Ukraine, it's like, I can really feel it. Yeah. But I can even feel it when it's just, you know what I mean? The coachee's a bit agitated, a bit nervous. Often real basic thing. Please steal this. Okay. Take 3 deep breaths at the beginning of coaching. Just, hey, John, I know you've got a lot to talk about. It's nice to see you again. Put your feet on the ground, relax your belly, take a breath. All right, tell me again how your boss is an idiot. Yeah? What do you want to get from today's session? Anyone ask a question like that? Give me a wave. What do you want to get from today's session? Classic. Good question. What's the point in asking a good question to a messed up state? What's the point? Yeah. Instead, you got a good question, help them shift so they're in a more resourced state rather than fight or flight, which is rarely helpful. There's exceptions. Like if someone's deep in despair, I might get them angry just to get them some energy out of despair, right? That might be helpful, but generally it's not. Generally, people are stressed, they're agitated, or they're exhausted and they need upregulating. Anyone got exhausted clients? Most people are just tired, aren't they? Particularly October in Scandinavia. Yeah, you're going to have some tired clients. What is it? It's like the middle of the night, isn't it? It's like it's dark. I once taught in Norway in December. Never again. Only the summer for the Nordics now. That's my rule to live by. Horizontal rain. Anyway, so upregulation. Anyone need to wake up? Try this. Put your hand on your chest. 2 breaths. No more than 2. 2's good. Don't hyperventilate. We're not doing Wim Hof. Okay. Feel a bit more awake. Karin looks a bit more awake. She's like, ding. You can see it. Henrik too, yeah? It's like a bit more awake. Yeah? Like, I'm 2's enough. It doesn't take half the session. It just takes 30 seconds. Yeah? Like, have a coach who comes like, oh, I'm so tired. It's like, wake them up. Okay, now I can do that vicariously. I can do that just by giving energy myself, right? I can do that just by waking myself up. And with some coaching clients, that's all you can do. Because there might be resistance to this, very conservative, it's too weird. Then you just do it through your own embodiment. Make sense? Yeah, your influence. Or if they're more open, most people can take a couple of deep breaths. Yeah, do it with them. Say, look, I know this is weird, but bear with me. And you do either the belly breath to relax or the chest breath to wake up. Super simple up and down regulation tools. We could get way more complicated than that. Yeah, if you were embodiment teachers, I was training you for 6 months, but you might as well have something practical. We use this a lot, centering. You can find a very young, good-looking Mark Walsh on YouTube teaching this from 15 years ago. Okay, been doing this tool for quite a while. Centering, become aware of your body, balance your posture, relax your core. Want to try that now? Become aware of that. Don't close your eyes. You look like a hippie. So become aware of your body, balance your posture, relax your mouth and belly. Bonus, think of someone who makes you smile. Who feels a bit more resourced than 30 seconds ago? You look better. I mean, some of you just got about 5 years younger, no offense, so the years drop off. Yeah. So like simple centering practices like this can be really, really helpful. Okay. Good. Questions? Someone says they're not well. That's why they keep the camera off. No problem at all. No problem at all. Few simple things there. Yeah. How about this? Just bringing awareness to the client's embodiment like I did with you guys earlier. Yeah. Someone comes in, real coaching example, comes and says, why are my employees all scared of me? What's the problem? And I was like, well, John, can I just show back to you how you said that? He's like, sure. And I said, did his body language, did his embodiment, and said, look, this is how you just talked to me. And I said, I do martial arts and I'm a bit scared of you. What about the 5 foot tall secretary? And she's going to be terrified. You're a boss. Yeah. He was like, oh, I'd never really seen that before. Like no one had given him that feedback. He was just blind. It's like, have you ever seen guys say, I'm not angry? Or I tell you who's good at this, little kids. Little kids are rubbish at self-awareness, right? Little kids will do this. I'm not tired. Seen that? And then they literally like fall asleep on you. Yeah. They're not lying. They're just not very aware of their own embodiment. Yeah. They haven't built that muscle yet. They've got good self-expression, but they haven't got very good self-awareness. Yeah. So sometimes people need a bit of feedback, and you can show them, you can tell them, you can ask them. There's lots of ways as a coach. Just what is the embodiment they're bringing to whatever the problem is? Is it helpful? Everyone got that? Super, super simple. If you can raise awareness to that, that's going to be a really good starting place. Thank you, Vish. ABC centering. Specific issues. Any that involve a human body. That's all of them. Okay, because whatever issue you're having is embodied by definition, right? No one's a ghost. Here's some common ones. Boundaries. Someone comes in, I remember working with someone in Sweden actually, who was an executive. She was like, oh, I really need to say no, and I'm not very good at that. Now she could read the books that say no, but she didn't have this embodiment. So I gave her a posture to practice. Yeah. We got a doing different, incorporate into a yoga practice and doing different. We have a no posture that people can look up. Boundaries. I wrote a whole book on people pleasing. Leadership, hello, my name is Sven. I'm the manager here. I'm here to inspire you. I have a lot of charisma and leadership presence. I'm very dynamic and I did a degree at Harvard. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's not information that he needs. He needs to understand the basis of presence and leadership, right? Little story. I was teaching in Ukraine. It was the week 3 of the war. And I was teaching a trauma workshop, and it was day 1 of the training. I was teaching trauma educators, and the alarm goes off. Okay. And the alarm is, we're about to be bombed. It's an air alarm. Yeah. We have a bomb shelter underneath the training room because I come prepared. And everyone just did this. And then they looked at me. Right. And I'm scared because I haven't been bombed in a while. And it's not a nice feeling that someone's trying to kill you. And, I could notice myself scared. But I just did that little ABC centering we did before. I just said, everyone take a breath. Let's walk to the bomb shelter so no one gets hurt. Often people rush and they get hurt. And the whole group just went, oh, and then they followed me and it was all fine. Yeah, in the end, the bombs were 2 miles away or something. Yeah. But it was the trust I got as a leader in that moment wasn't what I said. It was that I was scared, but a little bit calmer than the average person in that group who wasn't used to being bombed. So it was like Warzone 6 for me, right? And, I had that embodied practice to help everyone. Does this make sense? Give yourself a little shake if you're like deep in your Warzone trauma. I don't know your background. Give yourself a shake. Let me see you shake, everyone. Have a little wriggle. Something I do with clients all the time. I say, have a little shake, reset yourself. There you go. Shake. That's a really nice little one you guys can take away. State changer. Yeah. State changing practice. Little wriggle. You don't need to be a somatics expert to do that. Awareness, range, and choice. That's essentially what we're trying to build in the clients, make them aware of what they're doing, give them more range, and then give them more choice. Very, very simple. Move how you want to be. That's another simple technique I use with clients. Very, very simple. Awareness pointing, I've talked about. Centering, I've talked about. Body storming is when they're stuck and we take them through different embodiments to get them unstuck. Yeah. So they're like really simple version. It's kind of complex, the technique. I can teach you it in a few weeks, but the simple version you can take away. If your client is stuck, get them to stand up and go for a walk. Super. Anyone got stuck clients? Normally people come to you and they say, I'm stuck with this marketing issue and I need help, right? Like that's pretty typical starting point. Get them to stand up, get them to go for a stroll. Say, look, just call me back on WhatsApp. We'll just do audio, forget about Zoom, go for a stroll. I guarantee you they'll get unstuck within 5 or 10 minutes. Yeah. Also, you can get some steps in, get a bit of exercise. I do most of my coaching on the phone for both of those reasons. You don't have to be sat in a chair. Or they're stressed, get them to lie down when they're coaching. Who says you have to sit in a chair? Lie on the floor and be coached. Yeah. Or if they're a little bit disempowered, get them to stand up and feel their leg muscles. Simple things. Yeah. Again, we teach more complicated things, but I want to give you guys, has everyone got like 3 or 4 things they can take away? 3 or 4 things, you've written them down. Steal everything. Okay. Take it all. Okay. So I like to give things away freely as best I can. Mistakes to avoid. So I'd say not working with the body is a mistake because it's just doing so much. If anyone do yoga or Tai Chi, if you're coming from that background, just be careful not to be too hippie because corporate clients don't like it. So we need to keep things in straightforward, down to earth language. I do whole classes on how to speak, and my students get lots of slaps on the wrist, don't they, Vanessa, if they speak like yoga teachers, if they use the international yoga voice. Don't make it weird. The more normal you are about working with the body, it's like, hey, John, let's take a couple of breaths before we begin. No big deal. Just make it normal. Don't be scared of the body. Some people are like, oh my God, everything's trauma. It's good to be trauma informed, but don't be trauma deformed. What I mean by that is don't be like paranoid. Don't be like these woke Americans who are just obsessed with trauma and they're looking at it through this crazy intersectional kind of weird Maoist lens. You don't need that. Okay. You don't need that. It's not necessary. You don't have to become a communist to do embodiment. It's I'm making a couple of you laugh now. This is normally where I offend people. Someone from Portland is there getting offended, like, actually. There's another quote. It's not new. Aristotle talked about this. I love philosophy, and Aristotle talked all about this. It wasn't his quote, actually, but he was congruent with this. Yeah. Why now as coaches? I would say because the world's crazy and people need some kind of anchor in the body. Technology makes that worse. And if you're only a verbal coach, you will be replaced by AI in the next 1 to 2 years. So if all you're using is words, you're less good at words than a large language model. Yeah. So you need to be using something that isn't words because that's the thing that's going to get replaced. I might get replaced in 20 years, but I think I'll be retired by then. Who gives a shit? Yeah. So I think for now, I'd recommend not just using words. Good. Last few things before we open up to Q&A. So if you want to see me coaching people, I've tried to do group coaching a little bit, but if you want to see me do one-to-one coaching, loads of demos on YouTube for free. And my famous 3 million downloads. I've got 1 minute coaching on Instagram. If you want to see how quick this is, 1 minute coaching on Instagram. So there's no excuses for not looking at that. More freebies, LinkedIn, loads of good stuff on LinkedIn. Just put my name in. Lots of articles for coaches. We've got a podcast. And I'd say the main one is this link here. Over on our website, there's a starter kit for coaches, which is, there's like different coaching tools, more techniques in a little book. So that's the starter kit, which is totally free. If you don't like me, these are some other people I recommend. Just take a screenshot. They're all good. If you think I'm obnoxious or something, or I'm too good looking for you, I don't know, whatever. So Paul Linden, my teacher's excellent. This is Dylan, my friend. He's a competitor, but he's a friend. Dylan Newcomb, he's very good. Wendy's dead now, but her work's very good. And if you want to actually get trained in us, it takes 6 months, doesn't take forever. The course isn't crazy expensive, and we have a code. If this is operates today and tomorrow. So if you want to get it for $100 off, use that code and you can come and train with us. The course is 6 months long. It's run by a German, so it's incredibly organized. And we've been doing it for years and years and years. If you want to learn embodiment coaching, it takes more than 90 minutes. I'm sorry. No, you can't have the slides. Don't ask. I'm not going to give them to you. So people always ask, no, make your own. But actually, thank you for having me. We've got time now for Q&A, but that's that website again, if you want to study more. Good. How are we doing for time? I think we've got about half an hour left, right? For Q&A, as planned. If you take a breath. Yeah. Not too quick. Tend to go quick. I'll check it was not too quick. Tim, Vanessa, write your feedback down. You can tell me tomorrow. Good. All right. What was your takeaway from all this? Just to help you learn. It's usually good to reflect, isn't it? Any key takeaways? Is training online? Yes, but you can supplement it with in-person training. So we have online training, but you can also do some intensives face-to-face, which is nice if you can, but not everyone can. So come to Slovenia. It's beautiful, would be my recommendation. I think I'm in Amsterdam and Berlin in the near future as well. Oh, and Austin, Texas. I imagine no one's there. Person you recommend, the people other than me, you mean? Yes, we can show you those again. So other than me, these are all good. Strozzi in California, very expensive, but good. Bit more Californian, let's say, than me. Paul Linden, my teacher who works with trauma. Dylan Newcomb, who's from a dance background. And Wendy, her books. She's dead now, but her books are worth looking up. But the one I really recommend is this, because if it wasn't good, I wouldn't do it. Okay. Reminder of the various means we could use our bodies in the coaching session. There's so many. I gave you about 20. For regulating yourself, for being aware of yourself, for generating insight, for empathy, and for influence. There's 5 off the top. There's loads more. In the book, I break it down, one chapter per each of the 8 embodiment skill sets. If you're earthy and like structure, I hardly get any money from this, so I'm not, it's just a textbook. If you can't afford our course, that would be a good buy. It's just organized. An OCD French lady did the chapters, and then ADHD boy here filled them in. So between us, it's a pretty good book. Good reminders. Yeah, often it's reminders. Coaching digitally or physically. Yeah, I mean, it makes a difference. Some of it, I mean, I do a lot of coaching just on phone or on Zoom, most of it now, actually. I mean, it's easier in person to get a sense of the body. Like when I do coaching on workshops, it just feels so easy because I just got a lot more information. The other one to consider is we're in a different context. So you might be a different time of day, a different weather pattern, you know, different temperature. So that sort of makes us further apart. Is someone taking a picture of me? You can see the phone up. Hi. Anyway, so that makes us like further apart, but you can still build like that empathy and rapport to bring them together. Yeah. So good question. I mean, it's all there, right? Tone of voice is still there. Embodiment's still there. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. So what am I doing? Questions. Follow the kick. Okay, mix both. Yeah, you can totally mix the embodiment with different things. So if you're coming from NLP background or CTI, we've had lots of CTI students coach over the years. We're not saying other approaches to coaching are wrong. We're saying just bring in a bit more body, right? When like there's very good schools out there with linguistics. Yeah. Have I missed any questions? Yeah, if there's questions, you can email Vish or pass it on to me or to the right person if there's questions about courses or anything like that. Yes, you can do it as an online coach. Absolutely. 100%. Definitely. I mean, I can't touch people, right? But actually, if I'm corporate coaching, I touch people very rarely. It's not generally a good idea. Yeah. Like I might ask them to touch themselves like we did earlier, right? But I don't need to touch people. It's not usually appropriate in a business context anyway. So unless I'm training in like Spain or Italy, and then we all hug and kiss because that's how we roll. But generally, it's not much touch. Yeah, techniques for long-term development. So state changing is quick, which is why I mostly focused on that today for you guys, because I wanted you to have some quick wins. However, techniques is we give people practices to do over time to change traits. So it's not like their personality transforms, but they learn to be a bit more boundaried or a bit more open or whatever it is. So we send people to dance and karate and different things to do as a way of building states. If you do KEC, that's our coaching course, you'll have a lot of practices to do, like meditate in the morning and little 5-minute check-ins, a lot of quick little things, and you do them over a period of time, and eventually you start showing up differently. People go, oh, you look different, you seem different, what's going on? Yeah, but that takes a while because we have a habit. I mean, that habit is what undermines coaching, right? People have a really good breakthrough, they have a good workshop, a good idea, or they take ayahuasca and they go, whoa, good idea. And then the next day they go back to being how they are. Yeah, so you need the practices to embed the change. States are easy to change. You want to change your state? Drink a bottle of schnapps. You will change your state. Okay? But the next day you'll be back to being you. Yeah? So, different thing. Good. Last call for questions. Then we've still got time. I feel like maybe you've had enough. It's quite intense for an hour. Could do a quick demo if you wanted, if we still had time. Do you want to do a quick demo? Quick demo? Let's do a quick demo. I'll risk it. Okay, put in the chat what you'd like. I'm going to take my jacket off for this. Okay, what you'd like coaching on. We'll do a 10-minute demo and we'll still be in time for the wrap up. Put in the chat what you want coaching on, because I want to check it's not something completely inappropriate, because sometimes we have people who want like their trauma issues dealt with and it's just not really the place to do it in a demo. So rather than just grab you, I want to see what the topic is before. So if you want to have 10 minutes of coaching, you can pay me lots of money or volunteer now. So put the topic in the chat and what you want coaching on. So I've got sort of some idea. I've had bad experience before with groups where someone's kind of really kind of just told me about all their childhood abuse and stuff like that. And it's just not great for anyone. So shame reaction. Yeah, we could go there. Again, might be a bit more of a private thing. Self-care, that's a classic. Should we do self-care? People interested in self-care? I mean, could definitely do both, but let's do self-care. Where's Anne? I need you on camera and you need to have a good Wi-Fi so we can hear you.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm here. Yeah.
Where are you in the world? Norway or in Sweden?
Norway.
Do you mind if I spotlight you just so I can see you a bit bigger? Thank you so
Sure.
much. So we'll go for about 10 minutes. If something you don't want to do something, you don't have to do it. So just because it's a demo, I don't mind. I can look foolish. It's all good. And obviously it's not confidential because it's being recorded. So just kind of be, in terms of what you share, just be aware of that. Yeah. Great. Tell me what the issue is.
I tend to forget myself, so I try to be good at self-care, but and I try to reduce on one end, but I intend just increase on the other side.
All right.
Typical ADHD with too many projects on my hand.
All right. Let's make that clearer. It sounds like there's a little bit of stress in there for you. So put your feet on the floor.
Yep.
Relax your belly. Think of someone who makes you smile. Take a deep breath. Let's see if we can clarify the coaching question. So, what would you like?
It's a very difficult question, but yeah, no, I'd like to have more excess energy.
You'd like to have more excess, was that, or access? I didn't hear properly.
No, excess. So to actually have energy to spare, I would say, rather than always going on the minus side of it.
So you're depleting yourself.
Yes, correct.
Are you pushing too hard?
Yes.
Okay, so that was a very quick yes. I'm seeing in your body there's a very definite quality there. Let's do this like we're pushing something. And like imagine you're pushing a wall.
Mm-hmm.
Some reluctance to do that. Yeah. I just want you to notice that reluctance to keep pushing, maybe because you're pushing more than is helpful or that in a way that's actually maybe borderline self-abusive. You tell me if I'm right or wrong. Feel that reluctance. I'm noticing kind of like a sadness. Tell me if I'm wrong. I'm just guessing because I don't know you. Do you feel that is this okay to continue? Because I feel like we're getting into quite personal territory. Notice the breath. So breathe in and sigh as you breathe out. If that helps contact that sadness a little bit. So you're pushing yourself to the point of exhaustion. Is that right? Tell me if I'm misguessing here.
Yes, I am. And normally, or when I was younger, I was able to do so, but I'm not anymore.
I know what you mean. I'm 45 and stuff changes, doesn't it? Stuff changes. Stuff really changes. So if you're happy to put your hand on your body, come back to just a touch there of, there's a sadness there of like, hey, I'm not, didn't have the energy I had when I was young. That can happen. And maybe there's some health things I could coach you on that would be useful, but there's also just aging, right? It's just part of life.
And kids and everything.
And kids.
Life. Yeah.
Okay. And raising children is impossible in the modern world. So I've got sympathy for that. And there's a sadness there of like, I'm pushing myself harder than is kind. Is that fair to say? Yeah. And now we're smiling. Be in contact with the kindness. What part of your body does that resonate with? The self-kindness?
The heart.
The heart. Okay, so maybe put your hand on your heart if that feels okay.
Yeah.
So there's this urge to push, which may have been very useful when you were younger. Maybe got you a lot of success even, right? Like part of you has done that, probably been very helpful career-wise. But now we're also in touch with this kindness. Yeah, and take a slightly deeper breath there. Let go of the shoulders if that helps. If it's too much, we can always pause. So you're in charge here.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
And what would be kinder? What would be a kinder way for you to treat yourself? Just a little bit kinder.
To actually do what I say that I should do, or I know that I should do. but I kind of tend to ignore it and do it anyway.
Okay, so
I have to.
you logically know there's things that would be kind, but there's another voice that I have to. So what I suggest is when you have that in your diary, come back to this kinder embodiment and just go, hey, just reconnect to that kinder part rather than the pushing have to part. It's a different embodiment. Yeah. So just a hand on the heart can be your little kind of reminder to take away when you see something in your diary that you're not going to push through. Yeah. And also just there's a little and that second piece here. I mean, you've done great already. This is beautiful work in 5 minutes. It seems to me you're being a little hard on yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. Does that resonate? Yeah. So again, if you find yourself being like, oh, I can't even do the self-care practices. What's wrong with me? What's the voice that goes in your head?
Yeah. Telling myself off.
What do you say in Swedish or Norwegian or whatever it is?
No, I'm from Northern Norway, so you wouldn't want to hear that.
Oh, wow. Okay. Is that like culturally there's something there as well, right?
More swear words.
Well, I love swearing. I'm all about the swearing. I love a good swear. But you're being harsh on you're probably speaking to yourself in a way that you wouldn't speak to someone else, right?
Yeah, because I'm very supportive and say all the right things to everybody else as being a coach, but when it comes to yourself.
Okay, great. So when you notice yourself swearing, there's the little red light. Okay, because you wouldn't swear at your kids, you wouldn't swear at your coaches, right? I can see you're a kind person. So that's your little red light. Hey, maybe I need to speak a little kinder to myself. And then just taking a breath, coming back to that tenderness to be a little kinder in how you're talking to yourself.
And stop.
And stop. Take a stop. I like that. Stop, pause, breathe, come back to kindness. There we go. That breath. Good job. Okay. What's your key takeaway here?
That I have to start doing what I tell myself that I'm supposed to be doing.
You don't have to, but it might be kind to. I don't want you to be in have to because that is more pushing. That's more pushing.
Yes. And that's the thing, right? So it's about to actually listen to myself.
Yeah.
And listen to my own kindness to myself.
Which does exist, and you're very kind with other people. We're just turning that back in. And the practice to do that practically is what?
Practice what you preach.
All right. But how are you going to do that?
I'm going to take a breather and I'm going to lift my hand to my chest.
Yeah.
And I'm going to try and remember this. And I'm going to also remember that my goal is actually to last, because in this pace, I will not.
It's not sustainable, right? It's not. I get it. Like I learned this at 40, and really the hard way, and had a burnout, so I totally resonate.
Yeah,
and there's the practice, and you might just. I'll offer you this. Put it. Obviously, if I was coaching you, I'd remind you each week, right? But like, put it maybe on your phone, just an alarm to go off a couple of times today, just to check in, or else people just forget. Yeah. Good. Greta, can I just say thank you so much. Really tender work, and you made me look good. I really appreciate that. So good stuff. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. So we'll take her off pinned. Let's just give her some love. So please just sprinkle some whatever, people throw her some beautiful fika or something like that to be happy with in Norway. Yeah. Excellent fjords. Okay, so good, lovely, very classic, actually. And do you mind if I just break down what I did? I'm not going to talk about your personally, but some of the techniques. All right. So lots of consent, lots of checking in, lots of following her body, following the breath. Yeah, looking at postures, working with this pushing a little bit, following the sadness. Quite a lot of intuitive coaching as an embodiment coach, like stuff I've seen before, but always like checking out, like, hey, is this landing? I don't know you well enough. And then using humor to get her out of the sadness a few times. I was using the humor to help her not feel overwhelmed. So sort of keep her in what's called window of tolerance in embodiment terms. And then at the end, just some very classic coaching, practical takeaways and practices to embed it. So pretty normal stuff at the end. Good. Thank you so much for the demo. I think we've got a few more minutes if there's any questions about that. It's pretty quick, huh? How long was that? 10 minutes? I never coach for more than half an hour. Like you'll see on YouTube, 10 minutes is normally enough. It just dives people right in real quick. And I get the sense she's not like a super touchy-feely kind of hippie person or something, right? So it's like, with everyone, people will go quite quick to it if they're willing and go to the body. So beautiful. Thanks, Pia. Any questions about the techniques? Is this normal? Is this usual? Is it cool? Who thinks it's cool? I think it's cool. I think it's cool. I'm into it. Every time I'm just touched by the vulnerability of people. It's just cool. Well, I have a cool job.
Is it okay to ask a question?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. I just want to say this is amazing. Thank you so much, Mark. I think this is so useful. Embodiment is very important. I try to integrate it into my work. I start every session with a sort of a moment to land. And most of the people appreciate it. And some of the people will be like, no, I'm good. I'm totally good.
I'm good.
Yeah. So now let's start. Like, what do you do in that way? Or even when you do an exercise, like, where do you feel that? And they're like, I don't. When you have that resistance, what is your strategy?
There's a few possibilities. Sometimes if people don't want to feel the body, it's just because there's trauma or sadness, and it's just don't push it. Like that's their resistance for a good reason. Other people are just moving so quick. I sometimes I just become very authoritarian. I'm like, John, I know you think you're fine, but you're not. You're fucked up. So take a deep breath. So sometimes I get really strict with them. Sometimes I roll with them on their speed and do a kind of match. Excuse the swearing. I do a kind of match and lead where I kind of go, okay, let's go quick. Let's get into it. And then gradually bring them down to a place where they, just co-regulate them through the coaching rather than explicitly. Because a lot of my executive clients are just moving so quick that it's like jumping on a moving train, and then you can slow it down. So there's a few things that come to mind, but it really depends on the client. And no one feels nothing, or else they'd be dead. Right? I had a client says I can't feel anything, so I kicked them in the leg, and I said, "Do you feel that?" Like that. It's like I say, "Okay, flick yourself under the nose. Do you feel that?" Yeah. Okay. So like you just have to make the stimuli more obvious. But everyone can feel something. Like, can you breathe? Yes. Yeah. So it's fine. And if they don't want to go there, that's okay too, right? They don't have to. Yeah, good question. Good. And what was helpful in that coaching, if you mind me just bringing you back? This is also me just checking in with you that you're doing okay before we wrap this up. What was helpful for you in that coaching?
Well, for me, again, awareness around my own emotions, and especially when you asked me to push, because you could actually feel that solidity in what I was pushing towards. And I think that was the one that hit home in a way, because I haven't really.
We exaggerated what you were doing anyway, and then my sense is you were just really reluctant to do it, and that kind of let us see what's underneath it. So yeah, it was a good insight there. Thank you. And do message me if there's any sort of aftershocks from this. It's always so often embodiment coaching sort of brings up a lot quite quickly. So just a bit of aftercare. You could always message me. Maybe Vish can give my number or whatever. So just check you're okay. Good. Okay. So I want to wrap things up. If you want to learn how to do that, come on this coaching 6 months from now. You can. That's KEK. That's a code. That's available today and tomorrow. So you can do this too. Tim has learned this with me. Vanessa has learned this with me, who are my students here taking notes. Thank you so much for ICF Sweden for taking a risk on a crazy Anglo-Irish guy and hosting me. So I really appreciate that. It's nice to have a platform and to be able to share what I love. So thank you all for your attention. It looked like you were really paying attention, all of you on camera, which really helped me out. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Vish, for all the links as well.
Okay, Mark, thank you. Very, very interesting. And we test some tools. This was very interesting, and see a very interesting demo. And this was very nice. And I appreciate you have this information to us. And thank you for this.
My pleasure.